Evening, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can we all stand for the national anthem, please? So I want to welcome everybody tonight and welcome our viewing audience here tonight. Close the meeting report, Rob, tonight. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I can report at this time that back on March 5th, Town Council did meet in closed session to discuss three items. One item was a proposed purchase and/or exchange of land by the municipality. Secondly, a further potential sale of land by the municipality. And third, to receive advice subject to solicitor-client privilege relating to an ongoing bylaw enforcement matter. All of this discussion was in closed session as permitted by Section 239, 2C, E, and F of the Municipal Act. As a result of that closed meeting discussion, Council gave administration direction with respect to the bylaw enforcement matter, and also gave direction on the proposed purchase and/or exchange of land by the municipality. And lastly, Council also gave administration direction to disclose in public session this evening Council's intention to declare the property known as 96 County Road 50 West as being surplus to the needs of the municipality. And that's in accordance with the surplus bylaw 855. Further, Council gave direction to administration to disclose in open session that Council wishes administration to return to the April 6th regular Council meeting with a bylaw for Council's consideration, which bylaw would approve the sale of 96 County by way of direct sale on or before June 30th to the proponents who have submitted an offer to purchase the subject property. To that end, Mr. Mayor, and to give effect to those directions pertaining to 96 County Road 50 West, we would require a resolution in open session from Council that declares this property as being surplus, that directs administration to provide the requisite public notice, and that directs administration to return April 6th with the approved bylaw. And that's the extent of my closed meeting report.
Thank you, Rob. Is there any conflict of interest amongst council members here tonight? I think Councilor Bondi, you were going to declare conflict. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be declaring a conflict on the first presentation by the library CEO, Robin Greenall, and I will not be partaking or voting in the conversation. Thank you.
Councillor Bondi, Rob, you had something to add? Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could return to item 3, as part of that closed meeting report, was the statement that if council is of interest in declaring 96 County Road 50 West as surplus, and to give administration direction to come back with the approved bylaw April 6, we would need a formal resolution by council. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Rob. So we're going to need a motion or direction, please. Councillor Van Dolen.
I move so.
Okay. Okay, and a seconder, Councillor Bowman. All in favor of that direction? It's carried. Thank you, Council. And we'll move right into the adoption of the published agenda. I need a mover on that, please. Councillor Guerin and Councillor Bjorkman. All in favor? And that one's carried. Thank you, Council. I need the adoption of the regular council meeting from March 1st, please. I need a mover on that one. Councillor Verbeek and Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? That one's carried. And I need a mover to the special council meeting of February 8th. Could I have a mover on that one, please? Councillor Guerin and Councillor Van Dolen. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to public. We have 4 presentations this evening. Our first presentation is from Ms. Robin Greenall, Chief Executive Officer and Chief Librarian from the Essex County Libraries. Ms. Greenall is here tonight to speak to the Enhanced Community Access Service at the McGregor branch.
Before we start, we have a few delegations tonight. We usually try to keep it at 10 minutes if we can, if that's possible. Thank you. Go ahead, Robin.
Thank you, Mayor Snively. And yes, I will try to maintain myself to the 10-minute mark. I will like to share my screen if I could and begin a presentation. So again, thank you, Mayor Snively and members of Town Council for providing me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I am here to provide Council with information on some exciting new opportunities that we have planned with the Essex County Library. And that new opportunity is our enhanced community service at the McGregor branch. Before I begin, I would like to introduce myself to those who I have not had an opportunity to meet. My name is Robin Greenall. I am the CEO, Chief Librarian with the Essex County Library. I have provided this slide with my contact information. So if Council wishes to have any questions or concerns that might arise from this discussion this evening, or if you would like to contact me about any library operations or to visit a branch, my information is there. So my presentation today is I'm going to introduce you to a new service, and hopefully this will be fully operational at the McGregor branch later this year. And this service is called the Enhanced Community Service. It's using technology, Open Plus technology by Biblioteca. And in my presentation today, I'm going to provide you with some background information on why the service was considered, a service description and what this service is and how it will work, our implementation plan, or at least a high-level view of our implementation plan and how we plan to introduce the service to the community, and then any anticipated expressed concerns that we've already heard. And these could be initial concerns we heard from staff regarding service and how we will address them, and any further concerns we anticipate as we go through the planning stages. And Council, following my presentation, I do have opportunity to hear any questions or concerns that you may have. So background, one of the Essex County Library Board's vision statement is our commitment to support a system where innovative ideas and cutting edge technology is embraced. It is So this enhanced community access service was strongly supporting this vision of the Essex County Library Board. And on August 2019, the Essex County Library was invited by the County of Essex to put forward a service concept to be considered through funding through the Municipal Modernization Program of the Province of Ontario. The OMMP was created to help small rural municipalities improve and efficiently deliver critical programs and services. And the board at this time agreed that the enhanced community service would meet the conditions of the program funding, and it would effectively expand community access and resources and services to our communities. In October 2019, this concept was further approved by County Council, and it was moved forward for funding for the OMMP. And further, this program was received and approved by the Essex County Library Board and by the County of Essex as part of our 2020 budget estimates. With funding support in place to purchase technology and further, the board providing further funding to do minor renovations to the site, we approached the administration of the town of Essex to consider the McGregor branch as our pilot site. So what is enhanced community services? Enhanced Community Access Service is created by installing technology, hardware, and software systems to provide the community with safe and flexible access to its facility. And how is this done? The Essex County Library has installed an electronic patron card reader for secure door entry. Patrons will need a library membership. They will need to sign additional waiver to provide access to this service. And community members will be given a card or card access. The card reader is linked to our internal database to confirm that the card belongs to a library member. And it is linked to our electronic door system that will unlock the door and relock the door after entry. The Essex County Library has installed security cameras in the main foyer of the facility and throughout the library space, both as preventative and security support measure. The Essex County Library will also be installing security gates to track patron use statistics and to remind and warn patrons if they forget to check out a resource. The Essex County Library will be installing a patron kiosk so that patrons can self-check resources out during their visit. We will also be installing a video conference phone so that there is always staff support when patrons need them. The Essex County Library took advantage of COVID closures to install RFID tags. Those are radio identified frequency tags into all of our resources. With the installation of these RFID tags, our patrons now have easier access and easier ability to check out their own services. And the Essex County Library has an easier time with inventory and tracking of materials. Some of the technology that you see on the screen before you is similar to that that's used in banks, gyms, and service clubs that provide their members extended access to their service and facilities. The enhanced service also might be best shown through a brief video by the Hamilton Public Library. In 2017, the Hamilton Public Library was the first rural Ontario library system, or rural urban library system, to implement Biblioteca's Open Plus services. They did so to expand access to their Freelton Public Library branch. And I am just going to briefly step out of my PowerPoint so that I can provide you access. PowerPoint's not as convenient. Oh. I need to stop sharing and then reshare. So here are two short videos that describe how Biblioteca Open Plus is installed in the branch and how it has provided access to their community. Please let me know if this is not on the screen.
Not on the screen.
Not on the screen.
Not on the screen?
On the screen.
I'm sorry, were you able to see that on the screen?
We can't see it on the screen, Robin.
Yes?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you. Is it available now?
Yes.
There
yes.
we go. We're
There we
good
go.
now.
Okay, thank you.
No sound though.
Robin, there's no sound?
I'm sorry, there's no sound?
Correct.
Oh,
Robin, I think you have to share sound similarly the way you share the video or the screen. Should be a button at the bottom to share the audio.
there should be a button at the bottom to share audio.
Yeah, so Robin, if you stop share, and then when you put it, so when you hit share screen again, when the screen pops up where you select the where you want, at the very bottom on the left, there should be a button that says share sound.
I see share.
And it doesn't say share sound when you select the screen.
It just said share. I'll
Didn't-
press this again and see if this works. Yes?
No,
No.
sorry.
I'll try one more time, and if not, I do have that link there for you to go to watch both videos on your own. So I shall try this one more time. Share. It just says share on the bottom. Oh, share sound. There we go.
To open
Yes.
remotely, manage the system remotely. It just provided us this opportunity with something that's already tested and known rather than us trying to put those pieces of technology together. We wanted to make sure that staff are available to answer calls. So a big part of our implementation with Open Plus was not just only the access by customers externally, but also the ability of the customers to easily press a button and get connected to some service or staff at another branch. Every location may have its unique needs. It's flexible enough to adjust and make it work for your community, even within the same library system.
This is a rural location. It draws about 2,500 people from its catchment area. We're about 25 kilometers from the Hamilton Center. The more flexible hours certainly helps with people and their schedules. So we've seen, more flexible access, and I think that's been really appreciated by the community. It's often when we have our Freelton staffer come in, she'll see mothers and children sort of playing in the corner sometimes. She'll see people on the computer accessing Wi-Fi, our printer, those sorts of things. FAQs were produced, flyers, those kinds of things. We distributed them, made them available here. We had signage available, talked about what pre-registration meant to customers. So they had a clear idea, and they were well aware of sort of what the accountabilities and responsibilities were for accessing the space during those extended hours. Customers are really happy with the access, and they're pleased with being able to do things independently. Like, they're more than happy with doing that. So this location, where we didn't previously have a lot of technology in place for self-service, they've totally adapted to that. They're comfortable with it. Some individuals, we suspect, only use the branch when it's during the extended access service hours. Others prefer coming in when there is a staffed person here, which is great.
I'm just going to switch over to show you the system in its place. And this is more their advertisement.
Located in a quiet rural community, Hamilton Public Library's Freelton branch recently extended branch hours using Open Plus by Biblioteca. With this comprehensive solution, the remote library branch is open for additional hours 6 days per week, providing enhanced convenience for users and more flexible access times. Before expanding the solution to more locations, Hamilton saw the Freeholton branch as an opportunity to expand use of a community asset and provide remote assistance to library services during extended hours. Freeholton residents can now visit their local library 60 hours per week, and usage of the library has increased 19% since Open Plus was installed. Library users can collect holds, use Wi-Fi, computers, meet and collaborate, borrow print materials, and access electronic collections. The community values the extended access and increased open hours at the Freeholton branch and appreciates the community's commitment to providing enhanced convenience and equitable access to the community. Following the success of Freeholton, Hamilton is expanding Open Plus access to the Linden branch, another rural location across town. With the help of Open Plus by Biblioteca, Hamilton Public Library is able to provide users with enhanced access to leverage existing spaces and resources, and also position itself as a strategic innovator within the community.
So Council, that gave you a brief description of the service that we're hoping to implement here in the McGregor branch. If you'd like further information, the link is on the screen and you can visit afterwards to find more information. So how will this service be implemented? The enhanced community services will provide community members flexible access to the facility. The Essex County Library currently has 17 hours of operation at the McGregor branch. With the enhanced service by Open Plus, we initially plan to open up community access to 49 hours a week. The hours of operation will be scheduled Tuesday through Saturday, I believe it's 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday to Thursday, and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturday. This will provide your local community residents, our library patrons, with access to the space for work or personal study, a place to read, a place to take their grandchildren to play, a quick stop-in to pick up their holds or resources at a time that's flexible to them, to use the computers, the scanners, or the internet, or even as a resting spot on a walk. The enhanced community access is structured to provide flexible service for our community members. What happens if somebody would like to have help? Enhanced Community Services provides increased access to our most valuable asset, and that is our staff. The Enhanced Community Service branch, the Essex County Library staff will always be available. The Essex County Library will be increasing the on-site staff from 17 to 20 hours per week. The on-site staff will be able to support patrons, research material, find resources, and help you find your next great read. But what if you can't visit during the scheduled staff hours? That there's a phone video conference always available for you. Community members and patrons will always be able to connect with an Essex County Library staff, either in person or by conference phone when you have a question and need help. And so how will we make this program a success? The Essex County Library started to communicate this idea with staff in early 2020. We provided this information to our staff, to our board, and to our local community, announcing the services that we'd like to provide. This provided us an opportunity to start to hear some of the concerns and start to acknowledge some of the adjustments we may have to make for the site. With COVID, we've taken the opportunity to begin some minor repairs so we can start the installation of our systems and services. And we hope, given COVID restrictions, that we'll be able to return this branch into operation May, June of this year. And when our branch reopens, we will offer 20 hours of staff service for approximately 3 months. And during this time, we're going to focus on staff training, providing staff how to understand to use the tools and technology that will be implemented into the site. We'll also be providing community training. We'll be allowing our patrons to familiarize themselves with the service and the technology within the branch. And we'll be promoting the service to register interested community members. Registration will be advising community members of the responsibilities of how they will have to use the site, how they let themselves into the branch, how they are not to invite or permit others in who are not registered. It'll be reminding them to respect the use of the space and the services and how to check out their resources when they leave. Patrons will be advised that the site will always be under camera surveillance. And after approximately 3 months of introductions to our staff and to our community, we will test run the system and we will open up the McGregor branch as the enhanced community access and encourage our patrons to explore and use the community facilities. With any type of change, we do anticipate that there will be some concerns. We've had conversations with the Hamilton Public Library and the Toronto Public Library as to how they addressed and implemented the service and address the concerns to their staff and to their community. Hamilton did note to us that their staff were initially concerned with safety and security, but they observed once the system was in place, a lot of these concerns took care of themselves. And they also recognized that their community members had a greater investment into the services and actually took better care of the branch. They reported to me most of their calls are about community members letting them know of something that they saw or observed. There was a post recently in our local newspaper noting that the Hamilton Library had experienced increased theft at their Freelton branch. I had a recent conversation with Sherry Fahim, who was in the earlier video, and asked her if she was able to speak to that or let me know if they were experiencing this difficulty. Sherry's comments to me is that they had not experienced any theft or graffiti or any additional concerns at that branch than any of their other site facilities, and that they had not marked or had recorded any theft from the space. All libraries experience some level of loss. Usually the loss is innocent loss where people forget to check out their resources. The Essex County Library did take advantage of our COVID situation where we were able to implement RFID tags. This will also help us keep track of those resources, and the security gates will be in place as gentle reminders to patrons to remember to check out their books. I further had conversations with Mo Hosseini, who is the Director for Branch Operations and Customer Experience with the Toronto Public Library. He related similar experiences that they encountered when they first implemented Open Plus at 2 of their community-centered branches. There was concerns for safety, and they were able to address that before the service began. And they had expressed concerns for how patrons were going to be able to utilize the space. Since implementation, both Toronto and Hamilton have reported to me that their community members are grateful to have access to both of their spaces. So I hope this brief presentation helps Council to understand our implementation for enhanced community services and sees it as a value to your McGregor community. And I would like to take this opportunity to gladly answer any questions that Council may have.
Thank you, Robin, for the presentation. Very well put together. I'm going to open it up for any questions from council at all. Councillor Bjorkman, you're first.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, to Ms. Greenall. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing that with us and bringing. I think anytime that we can get more community engagement and more service to our residents, that's what they're looking for and looking to us to be able to do that. I guess one of the questions I would have just to start is how old would your users be? Like how young can you be to actually go in there on your own?
Currently, and through you, Mayor Snively, currently we have a patron waiver form that we will be providing to patrons 16 years of age or older. And the reason for 16 years of age, that is the age of which our patrons are able to access or apply for their own library cards.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a great presentation, and I'll listen to the other councilors. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Counselor, anybody else from Counselor Van Andel? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, thanks, Ms. Greenall, for the great presentation. I'm a great lover of books and libraries myself. I'm a little disturbed that you can't get a card until you're 16. I got mine at 6, but that's okay. But my main question was about the loss numbers. So I'm glad to hear that Hamilton didn't expect any greater theft or loss. But what is the percentage of leakage?
That is a wonderful question. If I might first reply to your first comment, children at any time can have a library card as early as birth if their parents wish them to have one. 16 is the age of which a child, or as a young adult, 16 is the age of which they can come and register on their own. So we do encourage children to have library cards. It starts them off as great library lovers. As far as the tracking of loss, we would have to account for our inventory, and it is not something we actually put forward on a regular basis. We do experience and we do anticipate to experience loss in our libraries. Sometimes the scanners just don't catch them. Sometimes there's innocent loss where people walk out and forget. Sometimes there is purposeful loss where people come in and decide to take a video or a resource that probably should have been checked out. And I think anytime we're offering public service, we anticipate that that might happen, but we put measures into place just to minimize the loss overall.
Well, thanks very much. Even if it was a marginal increase, I think it would be worth it. This is I'm really glad to see this innovation and change because it was overdue. And the expanded hours is terrific. The expanded access, this is real service. I think it's terrific. I'm really in favor of it. Thanks for bringing it.
Counselor, anybody else from council? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. Welcome, Robin. How are you?
I'm fine.
That's good. Great presentation. And of course, I'm the Essex rep that sits on the Essex County Library, and I have seen all of this, and we were quite excited as a board to see this happen. I can't think of any better way to give better access to our residents. It's unaffordable to have a librarian present for the number of hours in smaller branches like this that we could, otherwise be open. And one of the biggest issues that in the McGregor area when I was campaigning from residents was the fact that there were a lot of people that didn't have Wi-Fi. It was just unaffordable. And this is a way that kids will have access for homework and projects 6 days a week so that they can go there in the evening. And like Ms. Greenall was saying that the kids have to be 16 to get in on their own. Parents would have to obviously go with them if they're going to be doing their homework, but it still gives them an opportunity to have Wi-Fi. And at the same time, mom or dad or uncle or aunt or grandparents can go there with the kids to make sure that they're getting their homework done, because a lot of the times kids need Wi-Fi these days to be able to perform their schoolwork even after school. And I did see that part about grandparents being able to bring their grandchildren. I think that's awesome. One of the questions I have, Ms. Greenall, is that there's probably a lot of grandparents out there wondering, do my grandkids have to be registered? If I'm coming with 3 of my grandkids into the building, I've got a card, I put my card up there and I get access to go in. Do my 3 grandchildren have to be registered with the library to be able to go in?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malash, and through you, Mayor Snively. While we would certainly encourage children to have library cards at any age, it sets them off on a path of lifelong library lovers and users. But certainly if we do have a guardian who is a library member who are bringing in their children, those children do not need to have a card. What we would ask is if the library member, the adult, is bringing another adult with them, that person have a card. We would like all the adults coming in to be registered on our system. And that would be because the person who registers in or swipes in using their library card takes on some responsibilities. So when they sign up to use this service, they're acknowledging that they take responsibility for the space and for the resources and the services within that space. And so just to balance that responsibility out, we would ask all adults coming in to be library users.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree more wholeheartedly that the earlier the kids get into the library, that's the best opportunity to teach them young that what a resource libraries are. And I know my wife is retired not that long ago from being a kindergarten teacher at Holy Name in Essex, but I know every year at the beginning of the year, before the weather turned cold, they would make an effort to make sure all the kindergartens would get down to the library in Essex because it was nice and close. And they would do a day trip down there and make sure as many kids as they could possibly sign up for a library card. So that was great. Just a couple of other questions, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. I've heard concerns about abuse in the branch. Hopefully we've got cameras on every angle to ensure that, that patrons, when they're in there, understand that they are under observation, no matter where they are in the branch. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We currently have a camera situated in the foyer. So when patrons come in and access to the washrooms, and I believe there's 4 or 5 cameras located inside the branch itself so that we can see every angle of the branch. Patrons coming into the library do have to swipe in, so their name is recorded. And if any identifiable damage or misuse of the space is found, we can go back over that video surveillance to see if and when and why it happened. It could have been an innocent damage, and then to locate the person's name attached to it. We are scheduling our staff to be there from 4 to 8 p.m. and 1 to 5 p.m. on the days that the service is open. So we will have staff there every day to keep to stay in touch with the branch and to provide that valuable staff service. We also have our driver who do daily deliveries, who will be scheduled to be there about midpoint in the morning to do a check-in on the space.
Thank you. And one last question. I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it for the viewing audience and for council. I've spoke with a few librarians, and there's a feeling out there that they're threatened that Essex County Library is working towards eliminating the in-person service of a librarian. Can you address that, please, Ms. Robin Greenall?
Thank you for that question. And I think that's actually a very valuable question for us to speak about. This service is focusing on community access and enhancement of access so that community members are able to utilize those facilities that are already located in their community. And part of the services that they do access are our staff. They are valuable members to the service that we provide. They are resource assistants able to help you find information, whether it be in print or online, or whether it is that next great read. They're also valuable members to some of our community patrons who come simply for the joy of having someone to speak to and having conversations. And they're there to help us with both our online, and if I might encourage people to go onto our Facebook, our YouTube channel, fabulous online programming they've been doing through COVID. But once COVID has passed, also that in-branch programming to return again. So this is not a direction to remove staff from our space. And as we mentioned, both in my speaking and in the video programming, staff are also going to be connected to this space by video conferencing in case a patron does need assistance if they're there during hours where staff aren't scheduled. So this is very much a staff-supported service, not a staffless service.
Thank you very much. And I know that being part of the board, that was not the intention whatsoever. We know the value of our librarians in the system. We know that people enjoy their experience with libraries because of the fantastic staff that we do have. So it's not that the Essex County Library Board was looking to remove any of this service. It's just, it's not affordable to expand service levels and have a librarian in the branch 100% of the time. So this is a fabulous way of extending the service hours so that, again, a lot of the people that I know in the McGregor area, shouldn't say a lot of people, but I did have residents that knew that they would plan their life around being able to use the Wi-Fi at the branch. And this is an excellent opportunity to expand the use of the Wi-Fi at the branch to those who cannot easily afford having Wi-Fi in their homes. So thank you again for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Verbeek, you had a question?
Sure. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. And again, welcome, Robin. Thank you for the presentation. And Mr. Deputy Mayor, thanks for covering like over half of the questions I jotted down. But Robin, some of my concerns, as always, my hackles are going to get up whenever I hear about eliminating staff to be, replaced by technology or eliminating jobs. And so that was the concern. Certainly, some of it's been put to rest by, your presentation. I'm really grateful for the community that, to have more access to the library. And I also just want to acknowledge what you said about, your stuff being a very valuable asset, because that's true. There's a great number of patrons that attend the library just for that piece of interaction, just for that, the experience with their librarian. Some of my concerns are around the safety issues within the building at the time that it's 32 hours with no staff available. For starters, I get that they can reach out through this video call and access a working librarian in another branch. Someone that's going to be dedicated to our McGregor location, so that they're available to assist, or is it someone that's going to be working at another branch that could be quite busy? And so I guess that would be my first question. I do have a couple to follow with. Will it be a dedicated staff to the unstaffed library, or will it be someone that's on duty in another location?
Thank you. That's a fabulous question to ask to understand the structure. So we will be providing 20 hours of staffing service. They'll be from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then 1 to 5 p.m. on Thursday and Friday. From 9 a.m. until the staff arrive, community members who register, so it's community members who register, can have access to the facility from 9 a.m. until the staff arrive. If they have questions, they can use video conferencing, and that will be linked with their partner library. That partner library will have 2 staff scheduled during those service hours to help assist. It is our intention at the time that staff will be able to support the services coming in. Of course, we're going to have to monitor to see what demand is and to understand if we need adjustments. The benefit of implementing the technology and the systems is we'll be able to have better data count as to when patrons are using the McGregor branch. And then by having the demand with staff as far as providing sort of that conferencing assistance, then we'll start to understand how we can better support or staff the McGregor. Does that mean we need to adjust the staff to come in earlier in the day or at the beginning of the day to make sure we're providing staff at the time that's relevant to the community? I hope that answers your question.
Yes, It did, and I appreciate that. I think my next question may be for our own staff as well. It's my concern is about bathroom, the shared bathroom. If there's no one in the building, I mean, who is, you know, like tidying the bathroom? And I mean, if someone was in there and there was an issue, God forbid, an emergency, and there's no one else in the building, that's one concern. I mean, is there anywhere we're going to be supplying like a panic button or anything? If people have 32-hour ability to be within the building and within our bathrooms for 32 hours without anybody else, the potentially being alone in the building, if something happened, I'm just wondering who is maintaining upkeeping the bathroom during all those hours, with people coming and going and no one else available on site. That's a concern.
Doug, would you like to answer this question? Okay.
To you, Mr. Mayor. To start, we're there almost every day doing the washrooms. We would continue that service. I think we would have to work with the library board in terms of if we needed more service or if there was some incidents that happened, I think we would have to address them. But right now, we would stay on our regular service, similar when the library is open, we have a community center open, or the medical offices are open. And I'm not sure, Robin, if there's any other procedures you're putting in place that may address the outside in terms of the foyer. I think it's just the fob system would be in place.
Yes, if I may. Currently, we would be having the fob system in place to allow patrons to access the facility. That fob will be both at the main door, and it will also be at the door that enters into the library. The reason we have to double fob that system is there are a lot of overlap hours with the medical services that are also provided through that community, through the community center. So at many given points of the day, the facility is already open, so people can access the medical facility. The bathrooms are outside of the library space, so we do have a camera in that main foyer, so we can see the doors to the washroom and the main foyer. And then we would have cameras again inside. So my understanding is that the cleaning is occurring already because the medical services are already there and the community access or community services being provided through that location. As Doug mentioned, we will probably have to monitor and then adjust if we're finding that there's a heavier demand on the washrooms that's already in place.
Okay, and I guess my final is just, at this point, more of just a statement. I'm hoping, I'm grateful, like I say, that we're going to have this expanded ability to use the library, and I hope it's all positive. As I was listening to the report, of course, I'm having safety concerns about people being in there alone and young people using their parents. There's nothing to safeguard against someone using someone else's card to get in at any point from what I heard, right? So I have to state my concerns, and I'm afraid and I'm fearful that it could become a slippery slope and eventually eliminate more and more live librarians available to the public. But other than that, I guess I'm done, and thank you for coming and giving us the presentation.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to go back on one of Kim's points, Councillor Verbeek's points. We're not looking to try and eliminate any hours with any librarians at this point in time. So, and in the future, this is just to enhance the number of hours that the libraries can be used. It has nothing to do with trying to eliminate librarian positions. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And with regard to washrooms, we have washroom facilities all across the community that are used. And not always monitored. at least here we have some kind of camera that catches everything on film as to who's going in and out of the washrooms. And it's just going to be, the doors aren't going to be wide open. It just there's only the users that are already scanning in to get into the lobby so they can get into the library. It's not like as if it's general usage of the washrooms. So I'm pretty comfortable with what we've been shown. So again, thank you, Ms. Greeno.
Mayor, Councillor Guerin, go ahead. You're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Robin. Thanks, Robin, for the presentation. Great news, especially for our McGregor area residents. Love the technology. So McGregor will be a pilot location, and I guess it would be considered rural. Do you see this, if it's successful, expanding to other branches in the county, perhaps say Harrow or even Essex?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Snively. Yes, the Essex County Library Board did also include budget funding for the Harrow branch for 2020. COVID has delayed our implementation at McGregor, so this pilot is going to be a shorter and shorter pilot project, but we do have funding in place for Harrow in 2020. I will be delaying the installation at that branch because I would like to be able to address or to see if I can find additional fundings to address accessible washrooms and update those facilities. The board has also, in concept, also talked about the expansion of the service to our Woodsley location. It's another rural library branch that sees a lot of service and a lot of its community members accessing the outdoor space when the facility is closed. We have 4 other branches that are small and small community locations, and those will be further conversations with the local municipality and the board as to sort of viability and reasonableness of putting the services into place for those as well. But right now we do have Harrow and Woodsley on the docket for installation.
Thank you, Robin. I believe it's a great project. I think it's going to be successful, and I think the public's going to be happy. So thank you for the presentation. I'll need a mover to accept the presentation, please. Councillor Van Andel and Councillor Guerin, all in favor? It's carried. Once again, thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our second delegation this evening is Tim Burney, Shelley McMullen, and Tanya Jobin. They're here from the Essex Region Conservation Authority in reference to the draft budget notice that was circulated to council together with implications of recent changes to the Conservation Authorities Act.
Thank you, Rob. You folks are ready to go. I don't know who's going to speak first. Tanya, you're going to speak, or Tim, or who's going to speak first? Go ahead.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'll be speaking first. To you, your worship, members of council, administration, and I'm going to extend a greeting to councillors Vandal, Dolan, and Bowman as they are seated at the board of IRCA directors as your representatives. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Essex Region Conservation Authority, thank you for this opportunity to provide information about the recent changes to the Conservation Authorities Act and the resulting impacts on our 2021 budget. I am going to speak quickly just to fulfill our 10-minute allotted time. Also, if I do experience some Wi-Fi freezing, I'll just turn my video off. Usually that works. I'm joined today by our CAO, Secretary Treasurer Tim Burney, and our CFO and Director of Finance and Corporate Services, Shelley McMullen. As you know, the changes to the Act, which were contained within Bill 229, have widespread and significant implications for operations and program delivery, with the narrowing of the objects of conservation authorities. In accordance with these changes, the authorities' programs have been categorized into mandatory and non-mandatory services based on the information that is currently available and in the absence of detailed These mandatory programs are currently confined to risks of natural hazards, conservation and management of lands, drinking water source protection, and other duties and responsibilities under legislation. A detailed inventory of the mandatory and non-mandatory services can be found on page 33 of your council package. The draft budget, which was circulated to your municipality on February 22nd, redirects funding from non-mandatory services to mandated functions, primarily in watershed management and corporate services. The draft 2021 budget totals just over $10 million. Of note, the budgeted expenses include $2.4 million of costs attributable to municipal partnership projects for which the authority secures partial funding from other government and NGO groups. The total requested levy contribution from member municipalities is approximately $3.4 million. This represents a total increase in levy of 2%. In the town of Essex, based on CVA apportionment, the requested increase is just 1.4% and amounts to $2,284. Municipal levies account for slightly less than 50% of the total funding for the ongoing programs of the authority. In total, this levy is $10.75 per person in our watershed, an increase of 26 cents from 2020. 72% of the levy, or it's $7.78 per person, is tied to delivery of mandatory services. Page 80 of your council package demonstrates the levy breakdown in detail. By 2022, it is anticipated that the authority will need to obtain funding agreements with participating municipalities where municipal support is needed to fund non-mandatory services. Programs such as tree planting, habitat restoration projects, water quality monitoring, education programs, museum operations at the John R. Park Homestead, trail development, and climate change resiliency are just some of the currently identified non-mandatory program areas that will require these types of agreements. It's widely recognized that conservation authorities play a critical role in protecting our environment and natural heritage, mitigating hazards, and supporting municipal partners by providing an environmental conservation and risk assessment lens on development applications. As an elected official, I too believe that if we want our Windsor-Essex community to continue to be a place of choice to live, work, and invest in, we need to ensure we are working together collaboratively to protect and restore our natural environment. In my opinion, the types of resource management programming offered by IRCA are best provided regionally on a watershed basis. No one municipal jurisdiction can manage the suite issues that impact on us, such as flooding, threats of active coastal and riverine erosion, and deforestation. Drinking water sources and the management of regionally acquired lands also cross municipal boundaries. These resource management programs would struggle to succeed without environmental education for all ages, private land reforestation and restoration activities, land acquisition, citizen science, and public access to natural areas. The mechanisms to address these are best managed collaboratively, and the most efficient and effective path will be to ensure the critically important work of making our region resilient and sustainable continues to be undertaken on an integrated watershed management basis. As chair, I look forward to continue work with all of you to negotiate these arrangements and ensure the ongoing sustainability of our region. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Tanya, that was quick, and that was quick.
Yes. Did you want me to repeat it? How much time do we have left? I could go it again.
Hey, listen, Tanya, before we go any further, I about the tree planting program. Is that on this spring? Are you having a tree planting?
Through you, your worship, yes, we have trees lined up for tree planting. This year is a transitional year. Agreements in place have to be honored, and but going forward, private land reforestation and private land tree planting programming can only take place with agreements with all the municipalities. The details of what these agreements look like and what we can offer is going to be the subject of regulations currently being promulgated through the province, and we're waiting to hear what those are going to be. But this year, it will be finishing up business as it has been for the last several decades. We've had some difficulties in the last couple of years with weather and obviously with COVID, but any tree planting opportunities that we have or agreements that we have to fulfill.
Yeah, my question to you, Tim, is the public allowed to buy trees off IRCA this year?
Through you, your worship, typically there is surplus stock available for trees that aren't picked up, trees that people have canceled some opportunities. They should contact our general office number, and then we can respond to that inquiry specifically.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking, I got the 3 acres in the back I bought. You know about that, and I want to plant a couple more 100 trees in there. Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up to council. Any questions on the budget? I see none, but Councillor Bondi, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the IRCA staff and board members for coming and sharing some of the challenges that are coming. And I think one of my first question is, where do we go from here as a municipality? Like, what part do we have in aligning these agreements?
Through your worship, to Councillor Bondi, it's a bit of an unknown for us. The budget that has been structured, and my hat has to go off to my CFO, Shelley McMullen, about the document that was prepared. We parsed out that document to reflect a literal interpretation of the changes put forward to Bill 229. We don't have the accompanying regulations. We don't know the extent. We don't know the wiggle room that might be provided. There may be wiggle room provided with respect to parsing out certain services, and the province will provide us those instructions. Once we receive those regulations, basically we as staff have to work with our board and reach out to ratepayers as far as like, what services do you wish? And then they as ratepayers would request that of their member municipalities, the municipalities they fall within, and then we would respond accordingly. So we don't know what that landscape is going to look like yet. We may be coming back in front of council once we receive those regulations and advise on our procedures and seek further instruction.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor. Further to that, we did have a discussion November 18th, 2019 at Essex Council when the city or the township of Ramar wanted to have an exit clause with their conservation authority. And at that time, Essex Council had a really healthy conversation about the conservation authority. And we had a debate and even a recorded vote on what we see as conservation authorities. And there was some talk that day that Essex Council would have a discussion about what we would like to see in IRCA, right? And the conversation was really good because some of us were like, we want to see the core mandate. And then other councillors like Councillor Morley Bowman said, if IRCA doesn't pick up some of the projects like John Art Park Homestead, who is, right? We like that regional approach and the things that you are doing that don't exactly fall within your mandate. And then about 6 months, maybe a little bit later, I was really taken aback when our CAO, Councillor Van der Dolen, and the mayor went to London, I believe, and gave feedback to, a provincial ministry on conservation authorities when council itself didn't have a conversation. So I just want to publicly say that if members of our council are going forward to bring feedback, please consult all of council, because some of us have been board members and it really isn't all of council discussion, not really a couple councillors bringing feedback on behalf, because this impacts all of our residents and all of the services that IRCA provides. And it felt at the time, it felt kind of sneaky. So I just think Essex Council still needs to have that conversation that we talked about at the 120-minute mark, November 18th. Thank you.
Anybody else from council? Councillor Van der Dolen, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. It is not sneaky for a board member of IRCA to attend an event involving IRCA. I'm very sorry that a councillor who's not on the IRCA board wasn't there. That's not sneaky. I was doing my job. Mayor Snively was doing his job. We were asked by the province to give feedback. So I don't know what this crybaby stuff is about. Like, apply next time to get on the board, but it's not sneaky at all. We gave important feedback that was asked for. And in fact, a whole bunch of it was acted on by the province. So obviously it worked. Thank you.
Councillor Bowman, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I think the basic mandate of IRCA is its core mandate is pretty well spelled out. One of the problems that we're going to have moving forward is the non-mandatory component. And I think it was mentioned before that that's an area that we have to, as county-wide councils, get involved and make sure that we stick together and make sure that these non-mandatory services are continued, because as Sherry just mentioned, the IRCA, or not IRCA, but the John R. Park homestead is one great item that would fall back on a local municipality, as would many of the other similar things across the county. And that would be very hard for a local municipality to pick up. So jointly, we can do those type of things. So it's very important that we continue along those lines and keep funding it. And this budget really breaks those components out. And hopefully that as the rules and regulations come down from the province, we're able to navigate their system and be able to provide these services that are out there at this time. And then it will take a look, I'm sure, a real hard look at these services and see how we can deliver them at a reasonable cost for everybody across the board. So just some comments from where I sit.
Councillor, go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, it's interesting. I've been under the employ of the Conservation Authority for 35 years. And I've heard this term mandate bandied around, you know, for some time. And what's mandate, what's core, what have you. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of actually sitting through 3 provincial reviews of core, non-core, mandate, non-mandate. The interesting thing, the Conservation Authorities were formed in 1946 by a progressive conservative government, and it was predominantly formed to deal with deforestation and drought. In 1952, as a result of Hurricane Hazel, the mandate was amended accordingly. So we are an entity that is governed and directed by statute, and we have a responsibility to respond directly to the statute as the current province, the current government directs us to. Our work and our activities that we bill the municipality directly for through levy are prescribed now in the legislation as a result of Bill 229. The non-mandatory services are not eliminated, but the non-mandatory services have to be negotiated with regional municipalities, and the regional municipalities would then have to agree to pay proportionately for those services. The challenge that we're going to have is simply, approaching all municipalities fairly and inquiring as to whether the municipalities are choosing to have us do those non-mandatory services. That is going to be a very tough business process to deal with. And we'll be seeking direction from your council and others how we proceed, again, once those regulations are published, and then allowing us to come back to councils and suggest such things as the operation of the Jarrah Park Homestead, the museum, tree planting on private properties, education programs, and those other things that historically were covered by portions of levy, not all by levy. If we could still do those things, or if the municipalities, towns, and city want us to actually continue or not. And that decision will be by people such as yourselves and that'll take place into 221, going into the budget cycle for 222. It's a real compressed time frame, and so Shelley and I and others in the management team have got our work cut out for us. But when we have the information available, we will make it available to yourselves for discussion, debate, and render those political decisions.
Tim, I'm going to go right to Deputy Mayor and then we'll go to Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to mention that page 53, that's the page where it breaks down. It's $1,075 per person. And it breaks it down as to what, this is what your money is spent on. And it categorizes, like for instance, watershed engineering is 29 cents of that $10.75. Outreach and educational programs are 55 cents of that spend. That is very handy. It's a very useful tool for us as council members to easily go back to our residents if they're asking specifically, what do we get from our dollars that we spend with IRCA? And I use this year after year. Every time a budget comes out from IRCA, this sheet's been available. And I just want to say, please continue that sheet because that's very handy. As a very handy tool. I print this one off and I keep copies for anybody that's asking, and I just hand them a copy so that they've got an understanding. So thanks again for this evening. I think you guys did a great job presenting. It's hard sometimes to present numbers and try and keep everybody's interest through the whole presentation, but you did a good job of picking exactly what you should present. So thank you again.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor, we'll go right to Chris Nepsey now. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify, Councillor Bonnie had made a statement about the MECP multi-stakeholder engagement consultation. And I just wanted to reiterate some correspondence with council that occurred after those meetings. Councillor Bonnie did ask me at the time why only the mayor and the CAO and the IRCA representative attended the meeting. And I responded to all of council with an email that noted, I asked if the mayor and the IRCA representative that council elected to attend with myself as both CAO and director of infrastructure at the time. And I noted that from a few CAOs that I had spoke with, they all did the same thing. I also noted that in the email that although I thought it was a healthy cross-section, in hindsight, I probably should have notified council. So that was sent out in a correspondence to council back in February of 2020. But I also provided the rationale for bringing just the mayor, the director of infrastructure, the CAO, and the IRCA representative at the time. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody watching.
Anybody else? Once again, Councillor Bowman, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. We didn't get to see Shelley McMillan this evening, but she's the mastermind behind this budget and did a fantastic job at it. Sat through a couple sessions with her, and I'm fantastic lady and did a super job. So thumbs up.
Kelly, for putting this together. Anybody else from council? One last thing to Tim or Tanya. Are we after any more land this year to purchase? Or is that in the budget or for any further lands for cover?
To you, Worship, with respect to that question, there is still monies through the Clean Water Green Spaces account. If properties come up and they are on the identified list, critically exposed, there are still monies that could be utilized that in 221. That is one of the things that will change in 222, because acquisitions of critical lands are no longer identified as core. If we are to continue acquisitions of critically threatened or lands that come available, we'll have to operate through separate agreements. But at the moment, there's nothing scheduled for this year that we are actively pursuing, Your Worship.
Thank you, and thank all of you for your presentation. It was a good presentation. And you know, Tim, I always supported, I was on the board before, and I do support a lot of things you people do. You do a lot of good things. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council and staff.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council and staff as well. Have a nice
Yep.
evening.
Thank you, Tanya. Behave,
No.
Tanya.
No.
I'll need a motion to accept the presentation, please. A motion is Councillor Bowman and Councillor Bjorkman, all in favor? It's carried. Just let the council know, Tanya and I go back a few years now, so I can say what I want to Tanya. She just soaks it up. Thanks, Tanya.
Or I'll give it right back.
Yeah, thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our third presentation or delegation is Mr. Perry Basden here from Heritage Colchester, providing an update to council on the bylaws.
Okay, Perry, anytime you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I'll try and be brief as well. On January 18th of this year, I appeared at council in objection to the notice of declaration of having the schoolhouse property, 195 Bagot, declared as surplus land. And at that meeting, it was requested that I come back at a future meeting with a plan of how we intend to achieve that goal. If it was to be stopped, how could we go about doing it? And that was to form a nonprofit heritage committee, Heritage Colchester, as it became known, so that we could move forward and begin restoration of the schoolhouse. On February 16th of this year, I also attended and gave a brief verbal outline of what we had achieved to that date. In your agenda package tonight, you have about 24 pages in detail, more detail than I described in the past, of what Heritage Colchester has achieved to this date. Rather than read them all page by page, I'll just highlight a few of them. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read them over. On page 12, there was one change that was made. We have now achieved the non-for-profit status. We are now incorporated, received that information from the Ontario Historical Society on this past Friday. So we're incorporated as Heritage Colchester, a not-for-profit corporation in the province of Ontario through affiliation with the Ontario Historical Society. So that is done. We're now waiting for the proper number from the Ontario government to come in. Other than that, it's pretty well self-explanatory. We've got various stages of restoration that we intend to pursue if we're allowed to go ahead. The first stage will be working obviously with the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario. I also cited in section 4 parts of various official plans, the Town of Essex, the Colchester Hamlet Guide Plan. Also referred to one that has not been accepted. That would be the Colchester Center Master Landscaping Plan that I found a wealth of information in as far as uses for the schoolhouse, work that had been done in the past and not adopted for whatever reason. We're still prepared to move forward. We thought the process would have moved forward once the Flynn Lewis offer to purchase was dropped. That didn't happen, but we're still plugging away at it. And so to be very brief about it, if we look at the last page of all the documents you gave us, that's probably the most important one here tonight. What we are looking at doing now is we would like to have the Town of Essex support the concept of a unique area of the Colchester Center by declaring Bagot Street and Sullivan Street area as a heritage historical center for Colchester. The other thing is we are going to try and move forward with the use of the schoolhouse for public uses, a tourist attraction, and it'll relieve the town of Essex from the costs involved for such restoration, as we can apply for funding through grant processes, private donations, things of that matter, that the town of Essex can't apply for various reasons. So we'd like to go ahead with this proposal if we can. We're requesting that negotiation be held between the town of Essex and the Heritage Colchester for the purpose of coming to an agreement that will be mutual benefit to both parties. I think by allowing us to go forward in a partnership, it'll be beneficial both to the town of Essex and to Heritage Colchester, as well as the residents of Colchester Center and the town of Essex, and all those who have supported the efforts to get Heritage Colchester up and running the way it has been in such a short period of time. And with that, I'll leave it open to questions if anybody has any.
Barry, to Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Perry. Thanks, Perry, for coming forward tonight, and thanks for providing the presentation. I applaud the efforts of yourself and the newly formed committee. Looking at what you provided, you put a lot of work into it. I feel optimistic at this point that the future of the schoolhouse is real and that there is going to be a new use that will materialize. So at least today we have a better plan for that schoolhouse property than we had previous years and previous to this. So I applaud you for it. I encourage you in the group to continue working hard, and I look forward to hearing back on what you guys come up with in the future. Thanks.
Anybody else? Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Baston, I think it's incredible what you and your group have gotten done so far. I read that report and I just kept going to the next thing, the next thing, next thing. Very dedicated people, a very dedicated group that are sticking to their plan and to their word that they were going to come out and do the work. I think it's fantastic. I think whatever we can do as the town, we need to get on board and support you. That corner, we've had the conversation. You stand at that corner between the schoolhouse, the church, and the graveyard, and that is the history of Southwestern Ontario. That's where it started 228 years ago for incorporation. So it's terrific. So I will certainly support you in whatever way I can as a councillor, and I know that our council and our town, and definitely our group in Colchester, are 100% behind what you're doing. So as I've said before, if I can help out, you let me know what it is, and as a town, we should get behind this. So thank you very much. It's a great report.
Councillor, anybody else? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Mr. Basden. I just want to say thank you again for you're the face of the organization right now, Heritage Colchester. But thank you to you and all of the team members on Heritage Colchester. And I think Councillor Guerin has said it the best. There's hope for the school at this point in time, and perhaps other projects that we want to see happen in the village and the surrounding area. So this is fantastic. I just want to mention one other point is that there is an open meeting, I believe, that's once a week. And perhaps, Mr. Basden, you can give all of council the information that they need to get to be part of that meeting if they want to be part of that meeting. How they would get on the Zoom call.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Malash. I don't have that information right at my fingertips, but I will email it to all members of council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else from council? Councillor Van Endon, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, well, congratulations, Mr. Basden, on your nonprofit status. That takes a lot of doing. It takes a lot of work. Congratulations. I have some some legalistic questions for staff. I don't know if it's for Ms. Jabbour or Ms. Chadwick or Sweet or Mr. Nepsy. I don't know. I'm not sure. But this declaration as an historical center, what does that mean legally? Do we have to consult other property owners before we vote for such a thing or declare such a thing? Because we declare such a thing that could affect property values. And as we know, consultation is a good thing. Might have to do that. And finally, how will that affect our town's our plans for the tourism in the district? Because those are fairly well developed and almost carved in stone.
You know what? I'll go to Lori. Lori could probably answer some of these questions. Lori, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Am I the only one that sees Councillor Vanderdolen as frozen? I'm not the only one? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you. And through you to Councillor Vanderdolen. So certainly this is something that I've tried to wrap my head around already. My experience formerly at the town of Kingsville, I could share the experience there. However, you know, how it relates to Essex is a bit different. So the process to designate an area in a municipality as a heritage district is drawn out or spelled out in the Heritage Act. And there is certainly a process that needs to take place. Consultation with a municipal heritage committee, in this case, the Essex Municipal Heritage Committee, of course, would need to be completed. And then certainly the property owners that would be involved, or sorry, rather a part of this, say, district, the boundary needs to be identified, the property owners need to be consulted, the Heritage Committee needs to be consulted and provide a recommendation before we ever bring anything to council. So my recommendation is to Mr. Basden, if that is something that the Heritage Colchester group would like to present, I would recommend that it be presented to the Heritage Committee first and foremost. As you know, the staff liaison to that committee is Ms. Rita Jabbour, our manager of planning services. Rita has been with the town for 5 years or more and is quite versed in the Heritage Act and would be able to assist in what that process entails. It's possible, like I said, in my time at the town of Kingsville, the town designated a very large area along, I can't remember the name now of the street, but in Kingsville, a very long, beautiful row of dwellings and structures that dated back from, you know, certain eras and certain times of the 20th century. So it's something to consider. The other thing is pertaining to Councillor Vanderdolen's questions related to how does it tie in to our vision for Colchester in the tourism aspect, in the tourism realm. The land uses in Colchester are driven by and say organized through the official plan. So the town's official plan, as council may remember during our budget deliberations, is a project that we will be embarking on in 2021, where we are reviewing. So we open up the official plan, which includes the Colchester secondary plan, which is a mini official plan. Those land uses will be reviewed. And at that time, if, for example, on a parallel track, the Heritage Committee is looking towards designating these lands as a heritage district, then we would work with those property owners and the committee to ensure that there's some consultation. I don't know at this time if that would be an impact in one way or another, but certainly there needs to be conversation before any land use is ever redesignated.
All right, Lori, pardon me. Anybody else from council? Councillor Bowman, go ahead.
Through you, Your Honor, just congratulations to Mr. Bastien as well for moving so quickly on this and moving forward. On the heritage designation of the area, I wouldn't want to see anything get put in place that would restrict the ability of the project to be hindered in the future. For example, changing some boundaries on the property and doing those type of things. So I think as long as those are considered as you move forward, it's a good strategy to do this. So, and I'm really talking about different uses of property closely to the schoolhouse and how we use them. So it's one of those things that when you declare it a heritage area or they give it that designation, you also restrict what you can do with it as well. So keep all those things in mind as we move forward. So again, thanks so much for your input, Mr. Bastine, and let's hopefully it keeps moving forward as fast as it has in the past. So thanks again.
Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we have a lot of great minds at this table. The community has done a lot of good work, and it can only go uphill from now. And we have a great team in place with our deputy CAO and Director Chadwick and her team. So when the time is right, I would like to make a motion to receive the presentation and ask that staff members meet with Heritage Colchester and start meeting and discussing different proposals and bringing in the Heritage Committee.
You can make that motion. Need a seconder for that motion. Deputy Mayor Malash, all in favor? Any further questions? Thank you very much, Council. Thank you very much, Perry, for the presentation. It was a good presentation. Thank you. Perry, you're muted.
Okay, thank you to you, Mayor Snively, and to the members of council. I will work through the Heritage Committee to investigate designating. I don't think we're after something that serious, but it's worthy of consideration. Our intent was perhaps a sign at County Road 50 in Bagot indicating the schoolhouse is that way, the church is that way, the cemetery is that way. That's the base of it, but we can carry it farther if it will be a benefit not only to homeowners in the area, church, cemetery, well, obviously is part of the church, but I certainly won't want to hinder anybody's development of any properties. On another note, I will be working, I would like to work with the Arts and Cultural and Tourism Committee of the Town of Essex as well. I believe we'll be getting more involved with tourism in the near future, as well as arts and culture as uses for the schoolhouse at some point in time. So to that end, I say thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you, Perry. I'll need a motion to accept the presentation or to receive, just receive the presentation. Oh, we already received it. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our last delegation this evening, as 7.4 on the agenda, is Mr. James Flynn and Mr. Kim Lewis. And they're here on behalf of the proponents in regards to the potential purchase and development of the property identified as 90 County Road 50 West.
Thank you, Rob. Gentlemen, if you're ready to go, Jim or Kim, either one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I believe Mr. Auger has our presentation that he's going to share screen. There we go. Terrific. Jennifer, how do I get that on screen? Okay. Thank you again, Council, for allowing us to introduce ourselves. I'm James Flynn, and I represent myself and the Lewis families to bring a development to the Colchester community. For those of you that don't know, we are the owners and operators of the Grove Hotel in Kingsville, a top hotel in Canada, ranking number 4 as of last year. Next slide, please. Allow us to introduce to you the Grove Motor Inn. We feel every obstacle creates an opportunity, and while we were really disappointed with the Colchester Schoolhouse site, we wanted to demonstrate our commitment to the community. We went away, regrouped, and have decided to once again try to bring a development to Colchester. We're currently working on site plans and elevations that we will make public as soon as they're completed. Next slide, please. There's a huge resurgence in motor inns. And what we're proposing to bring to the town of Colchester is a retro style motor inn, which will attract and accommodate guests visiting the area. We have spoken to several wineries and local businesses that expressed a desperate need for year-round accommodations. We are currently designing a 25-room motor inn to accommodate our e-bike rentals and food service truck. Once again, our development aligns perfectly with the Colchester improvement plan and secondary plan, and will be professionally managed by the Grove Hotel. Our site will provide ample parking for all guests visiting the area. Next slide, please. We feel that the corner of County Road 50 and Dunn is the perfect location to house our new exciting development. This west gateway property would ideally suit our development. Next slide, please. We are currently designing the motor inn, which will open visually to the south and have as little impact as possible to the residents of the north, while providing a visually stunning addition to the downtown Colchester area. Rest assured, this motor inn will be bright, colorful, and all things Grove. The site will be owned and managed by the Grove Hotel in Kingsville. Next slide, please. As discussed in our last proposal, the hamlet of Colchester has a secondary plan detailing the vision for the area with respect to growth and economic development. This plan also emphasizes the need for year-round accommodations and revenue-generating activities to promote tourism. We are proposing to double down with an even larger investment being proposed here to Colchester. This development comes with a $3.4 million price tag and will inject over $1.5 million annually into the Colchester community. We have the size and scale to support small business and attract new investment in the area. Next slide, please. Pardon me. We have heard your concerns over the schoolhouse site and have modified our approach to demonstrate our commitment to the community, the residents, and the businesses. This development could never be confused with short-term rentals. Once again, we are proposing an inn, which is an extension of the Grove Hotel in Kingsville. The site is ideally located in the commercial area and will support the marina, downtown core, and our ever-growing impressive wine region. Next slide, please. Once again, our development fits perfectly with the town's stated vision. We will promote tourism. We will address the desperate need for year-round accommodations. We will promote higher density, develop underutilized lands, and support our community attractions and businesses. Next slide, please. We are offering you an opportunity to partner with us and allow us to bring a $3.4 million development that will generate over $1.5 million in economic spin-off benefits to the community each year. We want to bring our proven brand, our experience, with this addition of a new motor into Colchester. This development will drive thousands of visitors to the area each year to support our existing businesses with much needed accommodations. We want to lead the way for future development in the area. Next slide, please. As we've stated in our first development, the opportunity to re-look at what we were bringing to Colchester, we feel that what we're trying to demonstrate here is the concerns raised over the Colchester site were very important to us. It allowed us to go away, think about the concerns that were raised and come back with a larger, better suited development for the area. Again, we strive to weave ourselves into the fabric of the community in which we do business. And we think you will agree that this development demonstrates that we've heard your concerns, and we want to move forward partnering with Colchester. We're asking you to allow us to purchase the land located at County Road 50 and done through a direct sale. Last slide, please. Thank you. The Grove Motor Inn. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions? Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be long. I just want to thank you so much for, sticking with the community, going back to the drawing table and coming with this plan. I loved it the first time I seen it. I love it even more this time. And the community is really fortunate that you're going to bring this to us. So thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, through you to Mr. Flynn. I want to just piggyback a little bit on what Councillor Verbeek just said. It's not too often a developer receives the type of news that you did with respect to the schoolhouse development, and still believed in enough in our community and in your ideas to come back to us again and try to work with us. So it's very, very appreciative. I hope council and our community will support this. I love the concept. I love that it's well thought out. I love that it's extension of the Grove in Kingsville. And most of all, I love that it's solving a problem that we do have down there. So I applaud you again for coming back with to the community and believing in us. And I hope we can see this one through. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guerin. Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Gentlemen, to Mr. Flynn, Mr. Lewis, everything the community brought forward through our council to you in your last endeavor, you've addressed. And personally, I'd just like to say thank you. I know on behalf of a number of the people that are in our community, thank you for taking that time, for really taking that information and working with that and believing that this is really what they were after, but that we really do need your investment. And it's a big win for this community. It's big for Colchester, Harrow, Essex, our entire wine route. So the way that you're situating the motel to have it, south facing, I think will really help with the neighbors that are on Dunn Road to the north, that we make sure that it's facing the park. It's easy egress across the parking lot to the park, out to the beach. It's all the things that we needed to be in a commercial zone. So I don't have questions for you. I just you guys have answered the questions with your presentation, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. We will speak, with our community for sure, but this has answered the questions and the concerns that our residents have had. So thank you very much for coming back to us and offering us another opportunity to be a partner.
Thank you.
Councillor, who was next? I think Councillor Van-en-Dolen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I want to echo my fellow Ward 3 Councillor, Councillor Bjorkman. This is terrific. This is wonderful. I mean, I liked the last proposal, but you said you doubled down. This is more than twice as good as your original proposal. It's fabulous. It's just what we needed. And the best thing is it's really cool. I mean, it's a cool development. It's retro. It's fun. I just can't say enough good things about it. And finally, my family would have a decent place to stay around here. I can hardly wait for some of my family to hear about this place once it's up. They're going to love it, especially the fisherman brother close to the harbor. Anyway, all the success to you. Thanks a lot.
Deputy Mayor Malash, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Flynn. Thank you, Mr. Flynn. I believe all along that this entire council wanted to be able to cooperate and have your development in the village. And I think you already know that. It's just the last proposal. It just didn't fit with what the residents of the area wanted, or what the vision that council actually had for that property. This property, Councillor Bowman and myself were both on council ago when we bought the property along with the parkland at Jackson Park. And this was the exact idea that we had in mind: controlled commercial development. And the ideal project or development that we had thought of, even at that time, was that for a motel to place themselves at that corner. So you're fulfilling a dream of even councils before us for many years. And I believe the wine industry is going to flourish because of this. We've always said here in Essex, the problem with our tourism is that they stay at a motel in Windsor. They come out to our wineries. They taste our wines. Then they go back home into Windsor. They eat in Windsor. They sleep in Windsor. And the next day they come back and use the beach. They stay at the beach all day, and then they go back to Windsor. They buy their stuff at the department stores there. So this will give us an opportunity to have people stay for an extended period of time. And I think that you'll see businesses flourish. And I know you're talking about 1.5 million turnover in the community in the short term, but I think over the long term, it's going to be much more than that. So thank you again for having faith and coming back to give us another proposal. I think you're going to see a much different scenario here with council on support for this development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rondi, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is, I feel like we're having our cake and eating it too. And I kind of feel, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, it usually never happens where we walk away in a win-win. I feel like sometimes we're in a win-lose. And I do understand there are going to be people that are unhappy, but I think we have to look at the better fit. And this is definitely, to me, a better fit. It's in a commercial area. This is where the plans of Colchester are showing where development needs to be and should be. And the businesses and residents throughout our whole entire municipality have said that this is a development they want to see, right? I do want to give thanks to Councillor Verbeek for navigating us through this and reaching out to the developers and making sure that they came to council tonight, because when we declared the property surplus last time, there was a lot of unease in the community because nobody knew what was going on. But tonight we declared the property surplus, and I want to thank the developers for coming tonight, Mr. Flynn and Mr. Lewis. So now council's not in a difficult position, right? Everybody knows it worked out so much better. I think the development is so much better. I don't think we're going to have the same concerns in terms of Airbnb regulations. I think it's a better fit for the area, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty sexy looking. So thank you for coming. And again, thank you, Councillor Verbeek, for pulling all the pieces together and making sure council wasn't in a bad position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
And you're next. Go ahead, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. Through your honor. Deputy Mayor Malaj mentioned a couple minutes ago about the council of the past, long past, purchasing all this property. And we were wondering at that time, should we be taking all this? And pieces of it have been developed over the years. And this was sort of the last piece sitting there. And boy, what a fitting way to develop that property. It just obviously just fits right in. Got good developers and local. That's the big plus as well. And what more could we ask for? So again, what a great opportunity for us and hopefully for yourselves. So moving forward, it's a good opportunity again for everybody. So thank you.
Councillor and Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. So just a couple questions, even to this one first for staff. So there'll be concerns with regard to paving that corner. We've had our issues with flooding in that area. We've had overland water movement. So I would just like to ask to Mr. Gerard, if he's in, or who can answer, just how we feel with regard to the corner, with regard to being able to handle the sewage, the stormwater, that we've looked at that, and what's our position there as far as the town.
Go ahead, Kevin, if you can answer that.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. This site would still need to go through site plan control through development services. A number of studies would need to be satisfied in order for the development to proceed. There would be infrastructure studies that would be included as well, looking at traffic, looking at sewers, things like that. Any further questions with regards to site plan would be better directed at development services.
Thank you, Kevin. Lori, did you want to add anything to this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add on to Director Gerard's comments, yes, this development or this property would be subject to site plan control, and the proposal would entail a review of not only any change to the land use for rezoning, but also simultaneously would proceed through site plan for approval and entering into an agreement for items such as servicing, ingress and egress, of course, consultation with the county because there is a county road and a driveway that would be proposed along that county road. All of that would be completed during the review period, or rather not the review period, but the expiration until that expected closing date of June the 30th. So those discussions, the applications would all need to be processed, and council approval would be required prior to that closing date of the property.
Any other, go ahead, Councillor Bjorkman.
Yeah, so just further to that, so if there needs to be a zoning amendment here, will there be an opportunity for the public that are around that area to have their voices heard and any concerns additional to what we had before, be able to express those and make sure that we have those mitigated?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, certainly. So as a part of the development process for this particular proposal, a rezoning application is required. So that rezoning application right off the hop warrants a public consultation under the Planning Act. So that in and of itself, a change in land use would spur public consultation for a certain radius around that area. We would also likely publish in the local newspaper as well. But notwithstanding that, there is an opportunity to further consult, not so much consult under the Planning Act, but because there is a site plan control application that would be reviewed or rather be processed at the same time, what we envision, because there will likely be questions about buffering or ingress and egress and what does that do. So not just from a land use perspective, but we want to bring both the rezoning application and the site plan at the same time for public consultation. So if on April the 6th, I think it is, that council will consider the, I want to say there's a bylaw on April the 6th. So once council enters into that agreement, then it would be between April the 6th and June 30th, where we as administration would consult with the public on the planning application for rezoning, bringing forward at the same time the site plan application. And then all of that needs to be approved, review period, notification period, appeal period, all of that needs to be completed before June the 30th, which is the anticipated closing date.
Deputy Mayor, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Flynn, or whoever's doing the presentation here. Can we go back to that presentation and just take one last look at the building itself? Back a little further. There, that one. I know that this is L-shaped. on the property. Is that correct?
It's actually, as we're working through site plan, as you know, that site is subject to county road setbacks, which I believe are 54 feet from center of road. So those setbacks are quite onerous on the west side of the property. It appears that rather than be an L-shaped building, it's going to be a U-shaped building. So as little of impact to the residents to the north, it would open to the south. So picture, if you will, a horseshoe type design, more east of center in that property, opening to the park directly across the street, if that makes sense, Councillor.
Thank you very much. So kind of like a courtyard in the middle, or parking?
Yes, sir.
Sounds wonderful. And I don't know if you touched on it as well, but there's plans of having a food truck on site, bike rentals, wine.
Yeah, all of the above. We've actually launched the Grove Bike Company, where we will have locations in Kingsville, Colchester, and on the wine route as well. The site plan that we're proposing will have a on-site food truck as well.
Wonderful. All very wine industry, tourism oriented businesses that are going to really help to flourish the tourism down there. So again, thank you very much. I'm just wondering, Mr. Flynn, is there an opportunity to share this presentation with council, a hard copy, or can administration share this with us, a copy of it?
Absolutely. We're happy to share this presentation. Quite frankly, Kim and I were, we were looking at tonight as a conversation what we've learned through our last attempt at the Colchester Schoolhouse site is communication's key. So as we're working through the site plan process, working on elevations with our architects, our engineers, we will certainly circulate those for your input and your to share with the members of the community that you each represent. Absolutely, we'd like to share it with you.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Once again, gentlemen, it's a great development for Colchester. I believe it's going to be the anchor of our businesses to come into the town or into the village Colchester. So once again, I really want to thank both of you for coming back. So thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
So at this point here, I'm going to need a motion to read the presentation, please. Councillor Van Andel and Councillor Bjorkman, all in favor? It's carried. And once again, Council, thank you for the support. I think this is a real bonus for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to reports from administration. This 9.1 is legal and legislative 2021-01, extension of stray cat intake agreement with Windsor Essex County Humane Society for receipt, and that the agreement be extended for a 1-year period concluding on December 31st, 2021.
Need a motion, please? On this one, Councillor Bowman, seconder. Councillor Bondi, any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
9.2, finance and business services. 2020 funding of financial commitments for receipt, and that council approved the funding of the balance of the town's commitment to the John R. Park Homestead Education Center through the utilization of council contingency in the amount of $34,793, with the balance remaining funded from the town's land acquisition reserve. And finally, that council approved the temporary borrowing from the landfill reserve for the deficit portion of waived development charges for hard and soft services in the amount of $397,216.26 to be funded and repaid in the 2022 budget.
Could I have a mover on this one, please? Councillor Bjorkman and Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions on this one? Oh, you have a question, Councillor or
Yeah,
Deputy
yeah.
Mayor? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. So thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Morrison. Mr. Morrison, out of those 397,000, is that monies that are directly related to permits that were issued in 2020?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. That's it then. Thank you.
All in favor, please? Thank you. It's carried.
3 on this evening's agenda is Economic Development 2021-02, Building Report and Development Overview for the month of February 2021 for receipt by council for information purposes.
Have a mover on this one, please? Councillor Guerin and Councillor Van Adon. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
9.4 is Development Services 2021-01, Electronic Building and Inspection Software for receipt, and that council authorize administration to procure and implement the electronic building permit inspection software cloud permit through single source means according to the procurement bylaw for a period of 5 years. And I believe Mr. Mayor, our Director of Development Services, is looking to speak to the matter.
Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
Thank you again, Your Worship, and good evening to Council once more. So in support of continuing to deliver a high level of customer service throughout the ups and downs of the COVID emergency, we see that there are ways to accept, process, and track building permit applications, as well as conduct and track mandatory building inspections much more efficiently through electronic means. So for these reasons outlined in the report, we recommend the single source procurement of cloud permit, which has also been procured by the City of Windsor, recently the Town of Kingsville, and soon to be the Municipality of Leamington. This consistent approach, essentially cross-border approach between our area municipalities, will certainly make it easier to developers, contractors, and designers to have that seamless understanding of the system across our borders. Over the next few months, administration will be working with Cloud Permit to integrate our systems and processes, as well as to configure with our GIS. But not only that, also to conduct training as well as soft launch internally so we can test out how that works, how the program works. Lastly, which is kind of a very exciting venture, Essex, Kingsville, and Leamington communications managers will be working with Cloud Permit on a collaborative effort to train and inform the area's builders, contractors, and developers in that cross-border approach, as well as potentially cross-border, or rather collaborative media releases and even collaborative video tutorials. As our Chief Building Official, Kevin Carter, likes to share with me, it's time for the building division to move into the 21st century. Thank you, Your Worship.
Lori, any questions to Lori? Councillor Verbeek, you had a question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Mr. Carter. It's time, right? And thank you, Lori. And I heard a lot of communities that have already moved to this at that last conference at the Roma say that it was really great in bringing the communities, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. And the numbers scared me at first when I saw them. I thought that's a lot of money, but I think we're gonna get more than our bang for our buck. It's gonna keep our building department always learning and moving forward. And again, like Mr. Carter said, into the 21st century. And I think it'll really improve customer service too. Thanks.
Councillor Van Dolen, go ahead. You have something to add?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, I agree with Councillor Verbeek. It's really going to add to customer service. It's a big improvement. They do have to move up, as Mr. Carter says. And I was also scared, like 32,000 a year, like, but we have to do this. And as we move into this, there will be competition in the future. The price will come down because there will be competition and somebody else will offer it cheaper. We have to get in. We have to improve the service now. So I think it's worth the money. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm of the same sentiment as our previous two councillors are saying, but not only for our customers, but also for our employees. I think this will bring a higher level of work satisfaction to our employees, take out some of the frustration for them. And it's also going to give them an opportunity to get more done because they're on the road. They've got the information right with them. They can, instead of going back to the office to finish off their paperwork, they're on the road. They can do it right there on the spot. This is going to work out wonderful. And I'm so glad our administration is moving forward with this. Thanks.
Mayor, I got to agree 100%. This is really going to cut down time too. So great investment. Anybody else? Lori, go ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Wonderful sentiments, wonderful statements. We've heard you loud and clear. Actually, at budget time, during budget deliberations, we did hear you loud and clear on the cost, the annual subscription cost. Yes, it is steep. However, we have done our digging and our research. We are in line with other municipalities and their contracts that they have entered into, specifically with Cloud Permit. For the number of permits intake or permit intake for our size of municipality, it is actually very reasonable. On another note, a great thing that you will see in the very near future is our fees and charges study. What we've done is we've worked with our consultant to actually incorporate the annual fee into our proposed increases to the building fees. So it's covered, it's shown in the study. You'll see that $32,000 a year will be fully recoverable.
Anybody else from council? Okay, I'll need a mover for this, please. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 9.5 this evening is Planning 2021-06. Notice of intention to designate 195 Bagot Street, Colchester Schoolhouse for receipt, and that council authorize the notice of intention to designate, and that the notice be published in a newspaper having general circulation in the municipality, and that the notice further be served on the Ontario Heritage Trust.
Need a mover on this one, please. Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Verbeek. Questions? All in favor? Thank you. Scary.
9.6, Planning 2021-04, Natural Heritage Conservation Easement Agreement on 3rd Concession Road, Part Lot 17, Concession 2, designated as Part 1 on 12R 28527. For receipt, and that council adopt bylaw 1994, being a bylaw to enter into and authorize the entering into of a conservation easement agreement between the owner of Part Lot 17 and the town of Essex.
Have a mover on this one, please. Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Vandenol. I have a question. I really don't know where this is at. I know the 3rd concession. Is this the woodlot towards, can somebody answer this from administration, down by the Arner Town Line? Is that where this is at? No? Where's it at, Councillor Vandenol, if you know where it's at?
I
Laurie, Laurie can answer. Go ahead, Laurie.
Sure, okay, or Councillor Vanderdolen. And I'm just pulling up the report. So while I'm doing that, this report came out of the Committee of Adjustment. Our Secretary Treasurer has prepared this report to Council. The property is in Colchester. Councillor Vanderdolen, I know, is going to jump to it before I do. I'm just pulling up the report right now.
Colchester.
Well, actually, it's not in Colchester. It's in Pleasant Valley. It's just east of the McCormick, before the first big dip. Like there's 2 dips on the 3rd between the McCormick and the Arner, and it's just west of the 2nd dip from the Arner, and it's almost entirely wooded.
Oh, okay, I know where it's at now. I know where it's at. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? Yes. Carried. Thank you.
9.7 is Planning 2021-03, re-subdivision agreement for Parkland Woods. That said report be received and that council adopt bylaw 1993 being a bylaw to enter into a sub and that the agreement be registered against the lands to which it applies.
Thank you. Mover, please, on this one. Counselor Bowman and Counselor Verbeek. Any questions on this one? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Can we just have the plan for Parkland Wood Estates put up on the screen for a minute for our viewing audience?
Shelley, it's Lori. I don't think we have. The location map actually is on page 192 of the PDF. There you go.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you. So I find it interesting, and I think that's a fantastic idea. What they're doing with the phase one is that they're developing the back end of the development first, and then the front two courts will be developed at a later point in time. So that when they're developing the front two, they're not, if they were developing the furthest one back at the end, you'd have trucks passing through those first two sections that were already finished. So I just want to congratulate the developer on this, because it makes much more sense to develop it the way that this has been done here. So thank you. But I believe that there are residents who probably would have liked to have seen this. So thank you.
Add to that, Deputy Mayor, I believe the developer already has deposits on properties to the back, closer to the park area. So after speaking to him, that it's a desire of a lot of people to live in the back end. So, and I think that's where the higher price homes are going to be, towards the back. So, Councillor Van Andel, you are next.
Just a point of information for those who want to know, phase one, I just counted 33 new homes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is much needed, and I know there was some comments in our community about the lack of green space with this development, but I think this is probably one of those one-offs, because I see how the parking lot at the back is going to connect to our sports field. So I understand what happened, and I really like the multi-use trail that's going to be in there. So that's a big plus. And GTEL was already out today marking lines, and there is a backhoe and an excavator at the back. So, and I'm sure this one's going to sell out, just like Pollard, the Pollard development in the junior school. Like, those are sold before they're even built. So I know some people in our community wanted to stay in our community for these, but they had to move elsewhere because they just couldn't get them done fast enough. But it's very much welcomed, and good to let our developers know again that the 0% development fees are ending this December 31st. So starting January next year, they're going to have to pay 25%, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but get those shovels in the ground. We need some of those homes in Harrow. I do know, because of this development, a lot of people were talking about the King Street in Erie traffic corner as well, saying this development warrants a traffic light. But I think we have to take it into context too. The money is a real thing, and we did waive development fees for this development. That is a substantial amount of money. We're not going to be getting a lot of money right away. We have to pay off those development fees. So we have to look at the entire picture when it comes to dollars and cents. And I do think going forward, waiving development fees is likely not the way to go, but I'm glad we did get some builds in Harrow because of it.
Thank you. Just to give council an update, on this development here. A little bit of hold up right now with MOE, and talking to Walter, myself, Branco, and with Chris Nepsey, our CAO. Chris has put a call right into the MOE to try to push to speed up the approval. So just to let council know, we're on that. Same with Delabana. Okay, we're pushing for approval from MOE on that one too. So I just want to give you guys an update where we're at. So thank you. All in favor of this? Thank you.
Item 11 on this evening's agenda, any updates from County Council?
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Malash.
Yes, actually through you, Mr. Mayor, and you're aware of this, but we have a lot of our normal reports that we're going to be reviewing, so I won't bore you with any of those. But the one report we're going to be hearing about is, which affects a lot of our residents and our traffic flow, is on County Road 15, the bridge that goes over Canard River. They're going to be closing that off starting in April for 14 weeks. There's going to be detours and traffic's going to be, it'll probably put a pretty big kink in a lot of the traffic flows because there's not really good alternatives that are county roads. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be directing traffic all the way back to County Road 11 or County Road 23. So right from the middle of town to both borders. But in my thoughts, people are not, I know what people are like. They're going to try and take the shortest route. So very unlikely that when they detour for those 14 weeks that people will actually travel all the way to the county roads, the near closest county road. Hopefully we have to keep an eye on heavy traffic, heavy truckloads, making sure that those trucks are actually going to county roads. But you'll probably see increased residential traffic going down a lot of the side roads that we have in that area. So I just thought I'd bring that to everyone's attention.
I'll do it next. I've got one thing to add to County Council. I just I think we all had conversation with our new CAO there, Mike. And I made it very clear, Council, that County Road 50, I'll be damned if we're going to take that road over. So I told him we're going to have a battle, and we're going to battle that one because that road's a mess. And that would cost us a tremendous amount of money. I don't even know how we could budget to take care of that road. But just to let council know, the deputy mayor and myself, we're going to fight that one. So let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 12.1 is correspondence to be received, that all the correspondence listed in 12.1 be received and were indicated to further share with the community.
Council, I need a motion to receive it and a seconder, and we'll come back if there's any discussion. Bjorkman, seconder, please. Councillor Bowman, any questions on any of them? Councillor Bjorkman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just want to comment on point 2 and point 3 from Sarnia and Lake of Bays, how they brought forward the unfairness of restaurants, gyms, different service clubs, and studios that are only allowed to have 10 people regardless of their size. Both of those motions talk to either a square footage restriction or a percentage of capacity. Those are the ways that these businesses need to be able to move forward. And I just think it's I just want to bring it up. We're gonna support this, but it's so important that we continue to push for these businesses because they don't have a chance right now. And I'm glad to see there's a couple more. We've already sent a note that way. There's more communities getting on that, and we need to do that. We need to keep it in front for the benefit of our businesses. So just to point those out.
Verbeek, go ahead. You got a question on one of them?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually do, but I'd like to, on two, but on the 12.2 and 3 that Councillor Bjorkman just spoke to, I was hoping that we would receive and support and send letters of support. Like these communities are stepping, these municipalities are stepping behind these businesses and they're just writing letters to the government that seems to be tone deaf to their needs. And I mean, this 10 limit isn't fair to our to the restaurants, and these two municipalities have at least made the effort to send letters to the government to say, you know, it's got to be about square footage. They can provide you know, a safe environment for, you know, 50 people. Why then should they have to adhere to the 10-person rule? Anyway, I agree with Councillor Bjorkman, and I was hoping that on this one, at least we could send letters of support. And then as we get a little further, there was the correspondence. I may as well go there now. I was hoping to speak about the correspondence for the fire college. There's 3 communities that stepped up and sent letters and are sending letters to the support to the government to say, you know, don't close our training college. And I would like to see us support those communities that are, you know, that are standing up for their for this college.
I'll go over to Rob. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, real quickly on the piece of correspondence from Sarnia and Lake of, if Councillor Bjorkman and as seconded by Bowman are agreeable, we can pull those out of the motion to just receive, pass our motion to receive, and then we can pass a separate receive and support motion with respect to Sarnia and Lake of Bays. Existing motion on the floor to receive all. So if Councillor Bjorkman and seconded by Bowen is agreeable to that as a friendly amendment, we can pull those out.
Are you both in agreement? Okay, that's good. I think we'll go back to, should we go back to Councillor Verbeek first? Or it doesn't matter.
It's ultimately up to you, Mr. Mayor, but
receive the
correspondence that has been received, and then can deal with those receive and support items.
Okay, I'll need a motion to receive. All in favor? We had the mover and a set. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to Councillor Verbeek. You want to make your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to make that motion, but I would just like to get clarity from the clerk as just moving forward, because I seem to bungle this piece often. So when we receive this information, prior to receiving, is that when, if there's something I'm going to ask for receipt and support prior to receiving all, that's when I need to interject? Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor Verbeek. Normally, when the correspondence to be received is first addressed or first introduced by myself at the agenda, that would be a more ideal opportunity. Pull out correspondence A or correspondence B for receiving support.
Oh, thank you for the clarity. So at the beginning, I'll suggest that I'm looking for more than receipt.
Exactly right.
Thank
Councillor.
you. Okay.
But Councillor, you wanted to receive and support 2 of them, correct?
Absolutely, please. Yes, I'd like to make the motion and see where it goes.
Okay, you made the motion. There's a seconder on that one. Councillor Bondi. Any discussion? Councillor Van den Dolen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I entirely agree that it's completely unfair that we're keeping our larger restaurants limited to 10 people. It's ridiculous. And we should be sending a note, and we should be demanding that we open this up. But it should not just go to the provincial government, because as I've said many times before, I'll repeat, the provincial government says that they're only taking medical advice. That means we have to send this complaint also to the health unit, the Ontario Medical Association, the Ontario Nurses Association, and CUPE, because these are the groups that are telling the province, don't open, keep the clamp down. they're the one, it's the health industry that's keeping the clamp down. And the premier says he's taking their advice. So if we want this to ease off, we send it to the premier and all those groups who are telling them to keep the clamp down. So if I could make that adjustment here, I think that's what we should do, because we really want this to change. Because I agree with the previous counselors. We want this to open up.
Thank you, Councillor. Going back to Councillor Verbeek, you want to add that to your motion?
I agree with the friendly amendment. I think that we need to support the letters that these communities are sending and send our own, like that.
Morley. And Councillor Bondi, is that okay with you? Okay, all in favor?
I would
Thank you.
like, Mr. Mayor, I would like a comment there too, please.
Yep, go ahead.
I think we have to discuss patios now. I've been talking to some restaurants, and patio capacity, there is no patio capacity. You have 10 inside, and that counts for your 10 outside, and that I call is BS. So I don't know if that, Councilor Vanderdolen shaking his head, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I've been told. Am I right? Okay, that is wrong, because if it's a nice day out, people should be able to stop somewhere, have a glass of wine, have a beer. So can we do something a little bit as a friendly amendment too, especially looking at patios? Because that can help. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Councillor Verbeek. You want to add that? You might.
Yes,
yeah.
but it's the square footage, and that's going to include outside.
I would agree with that too. I would agree with that too. So we'll go to Councillor Bondi agrees with that. Councillor Garing, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So right now, they're not allowing the overlap. So if you have a patio like the Bull and Barrel has, it holds 150 people, and you've got an inside that holds another 200 people. They're saying 10, period. 10 inside and outside combined. So it's ridiculous. So I think we need to write that letter and be precise about the patios, if we're going to be discussing them, that it's two separate uses. In my opinion, it should be allowed. If it's going to be 10 and 10, let's say it should be 10 outside and 10 inside.
Thank you, Councillor. So all in favor of the change in that motion? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.2.1 is correspondence that is also listed for receipt and support. It's a proposed letter from the town of Essex, and it came from a proposed letter that had been circulated by the county, all of the county municipalities, seeking support from each of the municipalities in regards to the request and urgent need for hospital funding in Windsor, Essex. So the motion proposed would be that council receive and support the attached correspondence and join the other local Essex County municipalities in affirming its support for this project, noting that our municipalities continue to grow and that our residents require access to a state-of-the-art hospital servicing the entire region.
I need a mover on this one, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Van Andel, any questions? Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ogier. I'm just wondering who's being copied on this letter.
Go ahead, Rob.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would look for further direction from council on that. My understanding was that it was going to be sent to the county and to all of the county municipalities, and as well as the province.
So Minister of Health, at the province, and then probably Doug Ford's office. Probably copy Taraz Nadashak. If everyone can agree on that, that would be great. If we can have those specifically in our letter. Thanks.
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's who we have as now, but as far as those additional as those additions, if the mover and seconder are agreeable, by all means.
Would you want to add Taras, and who else would you want to add? That's who else is on there?
Doug Ford.
Yeah, he's on there.
Minister Elliott, Minister of
Yes.
Health.
Yes, yep.
And that's it. We already said the municipalities in the county
Yes.
of Essex and the county.
Right, correct.
City of Windsor.
City of Windsor, okay. Deputy Mayor.
Committee meeting minutes, that all of the meeting minutes listed, together with any recommendations to council noted therein, be received, approved, and adopted as circulated.
Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
Item 14 under financial is the statement of remuneration and expenses paid for 2020 pursuant to the requirements of Section 284, that the Section 284 statement be received.
Need a mover to receive it, please. Councillor Guerin and Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Got a question, Deputy Mayor? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just need to point something out here. This is for 2020. I know that I've seen it on Facebook or heard from somebody on Facebook that my mileage is way too high for 2020 when there's a pandemic, but that's because I didn't claim anything for 2020. This is actually money from 2019, and Mr. Morrison actually let me go ahead and claim it in 2020. It's actually a 2019 expense. I haven't claimed one penny for 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. I had the same problem, Deputy Mayor. I was accused of my mileage was high. I used to do it on a monthly basis. Now I do it 2 months at a time. So sure, you're going to see an increase because it's 2 months instead of the one. So just to clarify that too. Thank you. You want to comment on this?
Through the chair, yeah, I was just gonna back up what Deputy Mayor Meloche was saying there, that it was the timing of the submission, and stern email was sent out to everybody noting that their mileage need to be in for by a certain deadline. So it's playing catch up, and you won't see that happen again in 2021.
Thank you. Just behave, Deputy Mayor. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Item 17, reports and announcements from council members.
Councillor Bondi, do you have anything?
Just if any counselor wants to join in any of the events going on with the Youth Action Committee, we're up to about 15 youth now, and we're Zooming this Sunday from 2 to 4. So I would welcome anybody if they want to come. And we got a nice array of youth from all over the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bjorkman. You're next. Councillor Vandendolen, anything?
Yes, two things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, further to that, the new regional hospital issue, residents who support our view and the mayor's letter that we want this hospital can go to a site called Windsor Essex We Can't Wait.ca. You can get a sign, Windsor Essex We Can't Wait.ca. You can get a sign supporting the hospital. And if you're on a high visibility road, that might help. That might, I have one, but the ground's been frozen. I can't get it in, but it will be up on the earner shortly. So just putting that out there. Also, Mr. Mayor, have you noticed that my hand has been going up more quickly this meeting?
No, you just got a new system. Good for you.
That's what I want to tell you and our viewers about. Last week, I was lucky enough to get my Starlink internet broadband satellite package delivered, and I had it hooked up in a couple of hours. It was really easy. And for those of you who are desperate for better internet, or if you can't wait, if you're on the list for the fiber and you can't wait, my wife Veronique and I can't wait because we both do business on this. So we went ahead. We're going to sign up with the fiber when it comes down our road. But in the interim, we signed up with Starlink. That's Elon Musk's company. Elon Musk is a Canadian. Not too many people know that. He's also was the richest man in the world for about 2 weeks. But he's produced this fantastic system. It's a little bit, some people think it's a little bit stiff to sign up for $800. But some of the other systems charge more than that to sign up. And this system is spectacularly fast. It's only in the beta testing. Like I've frozen up a couple of times because it's a beta test. That means that's computer talk for they're experimenting, but it's going to get a lot faster, and it's going to be $130 a month. And already my Netflix actually works. It's not fuzzy anymore, and it's unlimited. I've had a parade of neighbors and friends coming through to see my system since I hooked it up Thursday, and I really recommend it. Starlink.ca, .com. The numbers are limited because he's only got 1,300 satellites. He's putting up another 60 every 2 weeks, but it's going to grow. And if you need better satellite, I highly recommend it. Thank you.
Councillor Bowman, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing official, but I'd just like to wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day. I don't see anybody in green tonight, including myself, but got a couple of days yet. Anyway, all the best.
Mayor Malash. Oh, there you go.
Just showing my green off. I've got my lucky share.
I see that. Have you got anything?
I do have something. Our Guestwood camp is coming upon hard times, and they're looking to raise some money for their programs and to keep them operationally out of debt. There's been, I'm not sure if it's a GoFundMe page or if it's just requesting donations. You can find it on Facebook if you type in Guestwood. But also, if you can find it in your heart to give a little bit, it's a great organization, great camp that we have in the town of Essex that does a lot of good for the community. They quite often host the ropes program for the OPP, and they also have swimming programs that they offer for the communities, not just in Harrow and Essex, but also for surrounding, all in the county. Every kid knows where that Guestwood camp is at if you live in Essex County. And I know my kids have spent years being at that camp swimming and having some fun through the summer. But if you even want to give them a call directly, you can give them a call directly. But I'm looking to the community here to help them out. Please, if you've got it in your heart to be able to donate or the ability to donate some funds, Guestwood Camp could really use some help right now. Thank you.
Mayor, Councillor Verbeek, you are next.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just one brief announcement in case people aren't aware that you can get your COVID-19 vaccine here in Essex. Currently at Brady's drugstore, they're doing 60 to 64-year-olds by appointment, and they're not like overbooked right now. So if you're between 60 and 64 and you want your free COVID vaccine in Essex, call Brady's drugstore.
Councillor. Okay, that's it. Go ahead.
Item 18, bylaws. For third and final reading is 1995 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of
for this bylaw, please. Councillor Bjorkman, and I need a seconder. All in favor? Carried.
For first, second, and third reading, this evening, bylaw 1998 being a bylaw to appoint a building inspector for the town of Essex. And through you, Mr. Mayor, our Director of Development Services, I believe, wanted to speak to this bylaw.
Yep. Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you, Your Worship. You'll see in front of you a familiar name, Mr. Dan Boudreau, who is a former member of Town's administration. With 2 new employees in the building division in the last 2 months, being a building technician and a bylaw enforcement officer, there is an immediate need to fill what we call the boots on the ground out in the field conducting building inspections, while our CBO and our building inspector completes the mandatory training required for both our building tech as well as our soon-to-be new bylaw enforcement officer and property standards officer. So a contract with an experienced and qualified building inspector such as Mr. Boudreau, who knows our backyard like no other, will allow us to maintain a high level of customer service out in the field while our staff focuses on preparing our new enforcement officer and property standards officer with especially the ups and downs of our region's COVID levels and the ups and downs with moving forward or backwards into those provincial standards, as well as, of course, training for municipal bylaw enforcement through our own municipal bylaws and training for our front-facing building technician. Notwithstanding the immediate need, we ask council to consider appointing Mr. Boudreau for the period of tonight until the end of this calendar year, as necessary, should bylaw enforcement needs be similar to what we were faced with in 2020, where which would have, again, require us to fill that gap in the field, conducting building inspections should bylaw enforcement matters be exponential. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to council, and we hope that you can consider this tonight.
Any questions from council on this? I think this is overdue. Councillor Verbeek, you had a question. Go ahead.
I do. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Director Chadwick. This won't affect his role he'll still be able to carry on as on our Committee of Adjustments.
No.
He
No.
serves on a few of our committees, and I want to confirm that won't conflict or anything.
Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
So Mr. Boudreau, sorry, the topic did come up with our senior management team and to our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Nepsy. We have consulted internally and we've informed the staff liaisons as well as the directors, me being one of them, that oversees the Committee of Adjustment staff people, which is in planning. So the recommendation from our legal counsel, who happens to be the clerk, who oversees the committees of council, indicates that there will be a conflict. And so Mr. Boudreau will be taking a leave of absence for a period of 1 year while he conducts building inspections on behalf of the town. And so the gap then, not so much the gap, but the decision will lie with the committees on whether they proceed with appointing a replacement for the year. Again, with Mr. Auger to assist with that, or to maintain quorum with 4 members on the Committee of Adjustment, and Mr. Gerard would be able to indicate who sits on drainage. I think there would also be quorum without Mr. Boudreau. So again, Mr. Auger might want to add to that, but that's my understanding, is that at the next Committee of Adjustment tomorrow night, that will be a topic for committee to consider, as well as at the next drainage meeting, it will also be brought up.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Need a mover and seconder on that bylaw.
This bylaw here, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Van Andel. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 1997 is a bylaw to authorize a lease for energy and the town of Essex for the lease by the town of the land located at 64 King Street West in Harrow. And through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a couple comments. This is exactly what it's stated here. It's merely a proposed 5-year extension of a lease agreement that the town's had in place with Suncor since 2016. Bylaw 1552 was the original bylaw that approved the first 5-year extension. And the lease, essentially, a couple of points, the lease essentially provides the town, the ability to use that space as a community green space. If the town proposes any other uses, or if the town proposes any material change to that use, they need the permission of Suncor. The town agrees to keep it in a good condition during the time they're leasing it. And as far as rental, what the town pays for rental is what Suncor would otherwise incur as property taxes. And so we believe currently the property tax bill on that property is approximately $1,500 a year, or about $125 a month. The original lease has a termination option. Either Suncor or the town can terminate the lease early with 90 days notice. And so Suncor approached us, asked if we were interested in another 5 years. So the lease extension agreement, which is basically a one-page document, the lease extension agreement to be attached to this new bylaw for council to consider approving the extension, basically says 3 things. It approves the extension until the end of February 2026. It confirms that the rent payable remains the property tax amounts, and except that they added a clause, a payment term clause that wasn't in the first lease, saying that those amounts are supposed to be paid within 30 days. And then lastly, it confirms that all other terms and conditions of the original lease remain the same. And so the recommendation is for council to give 3 readings to bylaw 1997 this evening.
I would need a mover on this one, please. Councillor Bondi and Councillor Bowman. Question, Councillor Bondi?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I have mentioned briefly to Mr. Sweet, our Director of Community Services, but we never really could get it together. Members of the Rotary are interested in using that space for something, and I don't even know if that's possible. So I want to throw it out there. Maybe we can have that conversation. But another issue is there's a sign there, and it's an old white sign, and it looks horrible. And we're getting this beautiful streetscape plan coming. So I'm not sure if we can do anything with that sign. If you drive through Harrow and you look, it looks bad. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, what your thoughts are, but it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, Councillor Bondi, I think we're already working on that one, on the sign. Yeah, we're aware of that, and it's been brought to administration's attention, and we are working on that one there. As far as the Rotary using it, you don't know what for, do you?
Like a Rotary Park in downtown, rather than just having it vacant. But I did explain to them, there's a lot of issues with that property. I think there's still contaminated wells there. I don't know. We can have that conversation later, Mr. Mayor, if you like.
So I need a mover for this bylaw here. Oh, I need a vote. All in favor of the bylaw? Carried.
Point 3, bylaws for 2 readings. Bylaw 1996 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this March 15th regular council meeting.
Mover, please. Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Van den Dolen. All in favor? It's carried. I need a mover to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? Carried. And Councillor Van den Dolen, your arm does go up right away, which is nice.